So today's episode is actually a deeply personal one, and it's not just an explanation of where I've been, but I'm sharing a bit of a reflection on how this time away has stirred up some old insecurities, ones that I thought I've overcome through years of personal development and therapy work. But these recent moments reminded me of the struggles that I've not only faced in my journey to navigate my own identity and self-expression, but that I'm still struggling with today. So this is a story of a Korean American woman, that's me, who took 39 years to break free from the weight of cultural and familial expectations and to learn to live on her own terms. But despite my fiercely independent perspective and lifestyle, one relationship, and that is with my Korean mother, one that is most dear to me, continues to challenge my sense of identity, and it stirs deeply rooted childhood insecurities. And it's this delicate balance that I'm still realizing that now at the age of 44, that I'm still navigating till this day. And that is honoring my cultural traditions while standing firm in my own independent voice. So grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let me take you on this journey. A story about finding strength in my vulnerability and what it means from my perspective to embrace both cultural heritage and self-expression. So in late September, my mother called me to tell me she was in debilitating pain. It was really heartbreaking to hear. And after countless visits to different doctors in the US, she said nothing was working. And it was heart-wrenching, really, because I felt like there was nothing I can do. But that's when she decided that she wanted to travel to Korea to see a specialist that my aunt had recommended. And without hesitation, I dropped everything and flew to California to first meet her and offer to be by her side, not just for emotional support, but for physical support. And it just meant so much to me. I just wanted to be by her side. And especially for someone who is one of 3 children and the only child that has lived outside of California, where everybody lives, for 20 years now. So, and I only get to see my mother about once or twice a year, just not enough. So it was really, really, really important to me to prioritize her well-being and be by her side. So our main focus traveling to Korea together was to find answers for better treatment and plan a better pain management so she can return home in less discomfort. And I also thought that this could be an opportunity for us to spend some quality time together despite the unfortunate circumstance. But as the weeks unfolded in Korea, my hope of this shared closeness took a bit of unexpected turn. See, I found myself grappling with these feelings I hadn't faced in years. And it's the ache of not being heard. And it's this sting of feeling misunderstood and the old familiar insecurity that has followed me through the years. And that is the feeling of not being good enough. And one moment stands out vividly. At my aunt's house, my cousin's wife had come over with her 2 younger daughters, and I watched as my mother cozied up to her. She praised her, was complimenting her for being such a good daughter-in-law to my aunt, and beautifully raising her 2 young daughters, all in the kindest, sweetest tone of voice. Later, after they left, I gently brought it up to my mother and told her how I noticed the warmth in her voice toward my cousin's wife and how it felt very different from the tone that she often uses with me, which often feels like it's tinged with disappointment. And her response was dismissive. She kind of brushed it off as if it wasn't much worth discussing and was kind of like, oh, I didn't notice. So a few days later, riding in the back seat of another aunt's car, I tried again. I opened up and tried to be vulnerable, sharing how I often felt criticized like I'm never enough in my mother's eyes, just not meeting up to her expectation. I hope maybe this time that she would hear me and validate me, or at least sympathize with what I was trying to say and how I was feeling with the way she was talking to me. And instead, my mother responded with a sharp disapproval and said, "You always have something to say. You should be doing X, Y, and Z. You should. And when I tried to explain my perspective, my mom stopped me and said I was 덤벼ing. Stop 덤벼ing. See, that translates in Korean. It means talking back. Kind of like talking back. And if you watch a lot of Korean dramas, you will actually see this scenario between an older Korean generation and a younger generation unfold. And to older Korean generation, this is the ultimate sign of disrespect. Just by speaking up to share a different opinion or different perspective, they often see it as if you're arguing with them and not agreeing with them. But to someone like me, who is a strong, opinionated woman who likes to speak her mind, her truth, and it's the American side of me. It is the core of speaking my truth, sharing my perspective, and trying to connect honestly. But no matter how much I tried to explain my feelings to my mother, why I felt hurt, why I wanted her to understand, it all fell on deaf ears. To her, I wasn't expressing myself. I was always talking back. I was always 덤벼ing, even though I didn't feel like it. It wasn't being vulnerable. I was defying cultural norms. She expected me to accept everything she said without questioning her, without having a different opinion. Just like my cousin's wife, whom she always praised for being so obedient and for always responding to elders with a deferential "네." And that is the Korean respectful term to an older generation by saying yes. See, in the Korean culture, there is this expectation of our younger generations to show respect for anyone older than you and always respond with "네," which is yes without questioning them. This practice reflects deeply rooted, ingrained values rooted in Confucianism principles, which emphasizes hierarchy, familial piety, which is Seoul in Korean, which is this cornerstone of Confucianism that places strong emphasis on respect, obedience, and care for one's parents and ancestors. And also this way of keeping harmony. And just by sharing a different opinion, perspective, or coming across as if you're disagreeing can be seen as disrupting harmony or undermining authority. And it's really ironic because I've always spoken with a lot of pride about how much I love this aspect of my Korean culture, this deep-rooted respect that we show our seniors and our elders. But in moments like this between my mother and I, someone that I not only deeply love and care about, but I think I deeply yearn for a level of understanding and acceptance that I've often experienced the other side of that coin, which is this battle between honoring our Korean cultural traditions without trying to come across disrespectful, but still maintaining the ability to express myself and voice my own opinions and to be heard by my own mother. So I felt this weight of this expectation really, really pressing down on me. And when my aunt noticed our emotional turmoil, she took me by a side and tried to comfort me by saying, "Your mom loves you. She just has a lot of expectations for you, especially as the oldest child." And I responded, "I don't doubt her love, imo," which means aunt in Korean, "but the burden of her expectations is and has been very exhausting because I will never live up to them. And it feels like no matter what I do, I am never a good enough daughter to her." And then something clicked. It really clicked. I realized that the weight of, I don't know why I'm tearing up now, but I realized the weight of my mother's expectations of constantly striving to meet her approval had been what seeped into other areas of my life. It really explained the dynamics in my past romantic relationships where the men that I loved, the past romantic relationships and even some friendships where I carried some of the heavy expectations, leaving the people that I love and men in my past saying to me, I love you, but it feels like it's never enough. So if you've been following me for some time now, you may recognize that this lesson that I have learned is something that I've shared with you in many of my videos and podcast episodes about how my expectations I had set specifically in my past romantic relationships has always made the men I love feel like they were never doing enough. And the more I tried to explain myself to my mother, the clearer it became that within her framework of the traditional Korean cultural perspective, anything that I said that may be different from her, may be different from her perspective, would always come across as if I am tembyong. So as the tensions between us escalated in our time in Korea, I found myself crying in frustration, feeling like I was at this impasse. And that's when I called my two dear friends separately, both who happen to be life coaches, and one is a licensed psychotherapist. Thousands of miles away, I don't know how many time zones apart. I called them and they actually asked me this question separately, and they grounded me in this, and they said, what is the most important thing you want with your mom? And after some deep moments of thought, I answered very easily. The most important thing I want with my mother is a relationship with my mother. That realization came with this hard but necessary truth. To prioritize the relationship with my mom, I had to let go of this hope that she would ever fully understand me, see me the way I wanted her to see me, and to validate my feelings in the way that I've always longed for. Through her traditional Korean cultural lens, I would unfortunately always fall short of fitting this mold of being the ideal obedient daughter, one shaped by her expectations and traditions. But this truth, I know, didn't diminish my sense of self-worth. Also, I knew deep down inside that my mom loved me. That was never something that I doubted. I know my mom loves me. I know my mom has always loved me. That was never questioned. But I realized I spent years wishing she would express her love in my love language, which happens to be words of affirmation and physical touch. So when we returned to the States, just before I left for Portugal, where I live, I noticed how she was making my favorite Korean dishes every single day for me to eat, and carefully also packing different homemade banchan. And let me tell you, my mom's cooking is incredible, and packing up special ingredients, Korean ingredients for me to take back. And despite her being in pain, and despite me telling her every day, like, please, mom, you don't have to do this. Like, you're still in pain. I don't want you to go through all this trouble for me. And in her tone of voice, still lacking the warmth that I craved, she said, well, this is the last time I'm going to do it for you anyway. It stung. It stung at first. But as I watched her packing everything for me, and even at 5 a.m. in the morning when I was leaving for Portugal, she was making my favorite kimbap, which is Korean sushi rolls. I realized it was her way of showing her love to me, which was through acts of service and gifts. And this was her love language, even if it was different from mine. And despite the tension between us, despite the weight of unspoken words, she was telling me that she loved me in the best way she knew how, and that she will always accept me, even if I fall short of her expectations. So in that moment, it became really, really clear. Excuse me. I didn't realize I was going to choke up filming this, but so the childhood insecurities I still feel with my mother, that it will still surface from time to time because of her traditional Korean cultural expectations that she will always have of me. They will never fade, but she's never stopped loving me, and she will never stop loving me, and she will never stop showing her acceptance in the only way she knows how. And I've made peace with this. If having a relationship with my mother means letting go of the need for her to understand me, or to hear me, or to see me in the way that I've always wanted, then I realize it's a trade I'm willing to make, because love, I've learned with family, isn't always about being fully understood or being fully seen. Sometimes it's about meeting those who you love and you know love you where they are and finding peace in that. So in closing, this trip really taught me that loving my heritage, my Korean heritage that I'm really, really proud of, doesn't mean I have to lose myself completely in it. I'm a proud Korean and I'm a proud American. I love both of the cultures that have shaped who I am today. And I'm still learning through my lived personal experience that respecting my Korean traditions can coexist still with asserting my own individuality at the right time. I don't have to fit perfectly into either culture to honor both. And I know that I can embrace the parts of my heritage that feel right to me and still be my own person. So to anyone who feels caught between two cultures of their own, I'm really curious, how do you balance cultural traditions with your own self-expression? Please, if you would love to share, I would really love to hear them as well. What has worked for you? What is working for you now? Please feel free to share them below in the comments or write to me. It's been an ongoing battle for me, but I'm realizing it's okay to live in the gray area. It's okay to accept the love your family offers, even when it's not in your own language. And it's okay to honor your roots while finding your own way to grow. And sometimes loving our families means meeting them where they are, not where we wish they can be. So thank you so much for letting me share this very personal journey and story of mine. I hope some of it resonates with you. Even if it did just a little, please feel free to share your own thoughts and your own experiences with me and the community. I think it would be really incredible to start a supportive conversation on this topic. So please feel free to share that. And here's to everyone navigating the in-between, finding strength and softness in equal measure. Thank you so much again. And if any of this also resonated with you, please feel free to share this with anyone who you feel will appreciate this or resonate with.